Welcome to the Building Design Primetime Podcast, focused on providing valuable information for anyone looking to undertake a new build or extension project. We'll share our tips, tricks and stories from a building designer's perspective.
Welcome to the Building Design Primetime Podcast. I'm your host, Amelia, and once again we're joined by Frank Geskis.
Hey, Amelia. How are we?
Oh, look pretty good for a Friday.
It's a bit of a dreary old day here today.
It is. Typical Launceston.
Oh, come on. It's just a bit wet and miserable. We'll be anywhere.
Yeah, but how many days do we have that's wet and miserable?
Not as much as Queenstown.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
Yeah, totally.
What are we talking about today?
I thought we'd talk about challenges with planning and, planning applications, development applications. And you might personally put an application in, put a shed in the backyard and do your own little drawings for that, or you might engage people like ourselves to do that for you. The sad thing, 95% of all the projects we do now has to go for a planning permit, and very frustrating sometimes because it looks ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah, well, it's just sometimes I think it's a bit of a waste time, money.
Going through planning?
Well, yeah, because you comply with everything in the planning scheme. You're putting a house on, you do an extension, but it has some stupid overlay. It might be, I don't know, anything from cute furry animal overlay to flora and fauna, or there's a sewer pump station 200 metres away. All sorts of weird stuff.
A tourist scenic drive or something.
Oh, the tourist scenic drive,
yeah.
That's a perler. Yeah, bushfire. Well, I understand for bushfire, but it means that you need to go through discretionary application. So, and we've had Michael in before a
planner?
A professional planner.
Yes. And
we got pretty heavy on the details on it, but I just think sometimes it gets a little bit too onerous and too many overlays on it. All you try and do is pop your house on there.
It does seem overly complex with so many different overlays that can affect a site these days.
But isn't it great now we've got the Tasmanian planning scheme where it's standardised across the state?
Well, to me that just seems like common sense, but...
It would, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But with the amount of councils we have in Tasmania for 550,000 people with about 28 councils, and you've got 28 different opinions sometimes, interpretations.
Yeah.
That's what drives us mad sometimes. But anyway, that's part of the job that we signed up for.
Yes.
So, yeah, there are things that you've got to consider when you go for planning, and I would always encourage, don't do it yourself. You'll get frustrated, you won't understand the planning speak and the wording that you have to use. And I'm sure it's very similar around the rest of Australia. Some bureaucrat come up with some idea that makes it more difficult or restricts what you can do on your site. And I understand levels of restrictions, so you shouldn't affect a neighbour's property unduly or take away their sunlight, noise, look into their private space, all those types of things. I totally get that. It's privacy.
Let's be fair though, some people just like to complain.
Yes, there is that, and you can certainly tell the way the world is. Everyone's got an opinion. It's a bit like a few other things. Everyone's got something to say.
Put their 2 cents worth in.
Yep, 2 bobs worth in, and that's okay. But what's interesting about planning, if you're doing an extension on your house, or you want to put, every guy wants a shed.
Yes.
Or, a she shed.
Yes.
Well, fair enough. And you normally jam them a bit closer up against the fence, which is possibly your boundary. Your neighbour may not like looking at the side of your shed.
Yeah.
And that's fair enough, depending what it is, or you block the sun to the backyard or whatever. And what do you do if someone objects? So your neighbour objects.
That's a really good question. I mean, what do you actually have to do? Do you have to do anything when that happens?
Well, you personally don't have to do it. If for argument's sake, if we've made an application on your behalf to do that, we actually deal with it. But also when we make an application, we're going through the planning scheme and the right zonings, the overlays, and we have to address it. And sometimes we do a report to cover that. Usually we can do it within the drawings. Sometimes do a report to cover details. Might need a shadow diagram to prove that it's not a shadow over their private open space. And you might meet all the requirements, but the neighbour just doesn't like it.
Well, they might say it's ugly.
You can say it's ugly.
Is that a justifiable reason for objecting to something though?
Thankfully not.
Well, that's lucky.
I just don't like it, doesn't quite cut it.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
if you come up with a valid reason, i.e. it's too high and it overshadows part of my private open space, or there's a window in an extension that looks into someone's yard. Yep, no, that's not quite right, subject to the distance from the boundary. So you've got privacy. There's ways of dealing with that. It could be all sorts of stuff. I just don't like it. It could be the intensification, so you're making your house bigger.
Yes.
But, there might be more cars. That's usually when you have more teenage kids. And
Yes, true.
And with their friends and with their boyfriends and their girlfriends all turning up at the same time for Saturday afternoon barbecue, and you've got 20 cars in the cul-de-sac and drive everyone mental.
That sounds like a typical Friday night for my family.
Yeah, well, your family's exception. But, teenage kids and P-platers everywhere, and they don't know how to park. And then when it's Garbo night, there's nowhere to put the wheelie bins.
Yes.
That's a totally thing. That's not planning, but I've seen this a bit with family and ourselves, myself personally. Yeah, just got a bit of patience. And I think with planning too, I'm a big believer you're doing a project, go see your neighbour. Go have a chat. Look, I'm planning to do this. And this is what I'm doing. Come out, have a look. This is what I'm thinking. I think it's a good way to do it. Now, if your neighbour's a bit of a dill or just a pain, well, you might reconsider that. They may not be receptive to even you knocking on the door.
Yes.
You can't do a lot about that. But I think being open and honest and transparent, talking to your neighbour about it is always a good thing. It could be an extension, it could be a pergola, it could be a new shed, it could be going up, putting another story on top of your house, all sorts of stuff. You have a chat. Yes, I'm thinking. Got any concerns? Yeah, I'm worried about you looking in here. Yep, I can deal with that. And then the designer, I've done it before where I've gone with the owner and talked to the neighbours.
Yeah, how did that work out?
I had one and it didn't work out too good.
Oh.
They spat the goo.
Really?
Yeah. I actually went by myself to this one in particular. It was adding a new dwelling onto the site. So it was a multiple residential, it was a corner block.
Okay.
Older part of Launceston, all weatherboard homes. And the house we were proposing, we're actually transporting it by truck or relocating it from the other side of the city. And it's a weatherboard home in a similar style.
Yep.
So the whole street's got a combination of old weatherboard, post-war housing. And anyway, the neighbour rejected. I thought, I'll pop round and have a chat. And I knock on the door, g'day, introduce yourself. Hey, I just wanted to have a chat to you about it. I believe you're not happy about this. And maybe we could have a chat. And they said, come on in. And they sat me in the chair and it felt like they put a spotlight on me and gave me the interrogation.
Oh, my goodness.
I was just trying to do the right thing. But it was cool. I went through it with them and I said, well, we're allowed to do this, we're allowed to do that. No, you're not, I'm going to object. Well, actually, I am allowed under the planning scheme. No, he's just a greedy developer. No, he's not. He was actually, he's a friend of mine.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, of course he's doing a development. But he was doing a multi-residential and it all complied. But they didn't like it. And they kept on not liking it to the point they were abusing builders over the fence. Like, language that make your toes curl.
Oh, wow.
And that was from the wife.
So there was no way of persuading or making
we tried
any...
everything there. Even the council got over it, but they just didn't want it. Flat out didn't want it. So that was a very extreme example. We got it passed, it got built, all the rest of it, and it was ended up looking pretty good, I reckon.
Yeah, okay.
We didn't build anything new or anything. It just tied in what was in the street frontage. So you get those extremes, and then you get other neighbours, and it's all good. No problem. Doesn't affect me. I'm happy. But have a chat, have a coffee, fight around for a beer.
And are you allowed to have so many objections before something doesn't go ahead?
It doesn't actually work quite like that.
Doesn't it?
Every council's got different rules about objections. Usually one objection, and if it's valid, sometimes not valid, this is the thing that drives me nuts, it then goes to the councillors, or in some cases the alderman, that then vote on your project.
Really?
Yeah, now, on the mainland, I believe it's similar, but this is how it works.
It could be different in other states.
But funnily enough, in Launceston, you need 3 good objections before it goes to council. Otherwise, they do it via delegation.
Okay.
And it's a much better system because I've seen people put objections in that had nothing to do with the project. They objected about the parking on the street. They didn't mind the project.
Oh.
They thought it was a chance to object in general. Oh. And it still went to council.
Oh, wow.
I had one just recently where we worked with the neighbours' concerns and all sorts about landscaping. We had to get arborist reports. We had the stormwater design, so it won't affect the neighbour. This was on a commercial development next to a residence. In the end, we addressed everything. It was all in writing, and then still put in an objection.
After you just worked with them?
Yep. And guess what the objections were on?
What?
The same things, the same items are brought up, yet we addressed it.
So did it pass?
Well, it's going through there right now. And we actually went to the council and said, we think this is not a valid objection because we've addressed these and you've acknowledged we've addressed it. Everyone's acknowledged it. No, it's got to go to a council meeting. This is what drives me.
That's annoying.
Wasting time and effort. So, yeah, what you can actually do with the neighbours, well, is not what you can do. I've had other neighbours that are not happy with the decision. We got it passed through council, got a planning permit, happy days. You got 12 days to object. And we've had a couple of people that were still not happy. They've taken it to what used to be the appeals tribunals, now called TASCAT, and you can then go through an appeal process.
Oh, that sounds annoying too.
It's very legal. Bring your lawyer.
Oh, wow.
Starts with mediation. Can it be mediated?
That sounds expensive.
You can, but you've got to cough up a little bit of dough. I don't think it's enough, but at the moment, but you cough up some money to then object. And then you can represent yourself. You're dealing with planning law.
You have to be an expert, really, by the sound of it.
There's certainly a level of that. Councils sometimes use their in-house legal team, or they'll get an external legal lawyer or a professional planner, either or. So that can be done. And I actually prefer when it's like, let's sort it out at mediation, because if you go to a full hearing, that gets really expensive.
Yeah, it would.
And every state, I believe, has a very similar system. Don't recommend it.
Yeah, that sounds...
But some people are belligerent,
process.
they want to take it, and they justifiably believe they are right to object this, even though it might meet all the requirements.
Yeah, right.
Yep, I've actually seen councils object to a department of the government's project. They refuse it, even though it should pass, because they've had an uproaring of the neighbourhood, and the councillors, whether that spineless or, gutless, whatever you want to call it, and they follow the crowd, and they go to TASCAT or the Appeals Tribunal, and they got belted and have to pay for costs.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep. Sometimes the councillors or aldermen will go against their own planners, which is totally foolish.
That makes no sense.
Does happen.
Wow. Okay.
Because the planners are professionals. As much as sometimes they drive us nuts, they are professionals at what they do. Don't always agree with their opinion. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. We all have difference of opinion, but you've got to do it professionally, how you go through and deal with it.
It sounds like it's kind of everyone's own interpretation of what the rules are.
But then it becomes a legal argument.
Well, it does. Well. And I mean, what else do you do? That's the only option really, isn't it?
But at least you've got an option, if you
True.
so wish. And that's the point. You've got an option. So if someone's being a pain and keeps objecting and does all that, you've got to have a good planning argument to object to something,
yes.
to make it stick. Otherwise, you're wasting everyone's time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you can't just say it's ugly.
Oh, you can say it's ugly.
You won't go anywhere though.
Well, no, or you block my view.
Oh, I'm sure that one's been used plenty of times.
It has, but it's not a planning argument.
Yeah, right.
It's not in the scheme. It's rude sometimes. I've seen some very rude developments around where people have built stuff and totally destroyed people's views.
Yep.
There was no need to. Mm-hmm. Some people don't care about their neighbours.
No, they don't.
They won't be getting a Christmas card.
Oh, definitely not.
So, yeah. But then that's planning. Planning can be a very complex path. So listen to your designer, listen to your architects who are designing, your project, extension, house, sheds, whatever. I'm not only talking residential. Commercial is a different beast altogether, but be aware that it can get complex, but be flexible in trying to make it work within the rules. The rules that they have there are generally okay. The actual provisions, it's the overlays that are a bit annoying. And you've got to sometimes pay for some expensive reports.
Yes. All right, let's change tact a little bit and talk about building close to things like airports. Are you allowed to do that? Are you allowed to do an extension if you're close to an airport?
Well, I can only speak for my own experience, because we don't do a lot of that for residential, but I know in Launceston Airport, flat no.
Really?
Yeah, flat no.
Wow.
There is, I suppose, an area, a zone where you can't build. in.
Surrounding the airport.
Surrounding the airport. And I remember someone asked us, hey, I want to do an extension of my house, and it was in that zone. It's an existing house in the airport. Anyway, I went through it and we checked with the council and, yep, flat out no. And the guy was really ticked off. And I understand the reasoning because the airports have to protect their space.
Yes.
Because people, it's too noisy. They shouldn't have planes coming in at 9 o'clock at night. My kids are asleep and all that. You look at Sydney, they've got restrictions because they've allowed housing too close to it, and now they've got to build some new airport 70 kilometres away.
Yes.
Which will all work wonderful and all that, and however long that's going to take. So it's about protection. But the issue with this gentleman at the time says, I love planes. That's why I bought the house. I love looking at the planes. And we were talking before, it's a bit like train guys.
Yes, I know one of those.
Yes, train guys follow trains anywhere, everywhere, detours, go see trains. And in Tassie, it's cool with where our yards are. You can actually... Tasra, I can see all the trains and the workshops.
Definitely.
And, I believe on the mainland there's a lot more security around them. But, if you're a plane guy, you're a truck guy, whatever your passion is, but sometimes you can't live near it.
That's really surprising that, this guy that's a bit of a plane enthusiast, he already owns the house, he likes living there, and yet they won't allow an extension.
Because that's under the scheme.
But how did the house get there in the first place?
Well, that's a fair point, considering how old Launceston Airport is.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the earliest airports in Australia.
I mean, whoever buys there, if this gentleman ever sells, they're going to know that it's close to an airport.
Well, yeah, exactly. What are they going to ring up the local guests? Oh, the planes are too noisy. And they took off at 7 and right in the middle of my tea time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to happen.
No.
It's pretty obvious there's an airport.
It's pretty obvious.
But there are some pretty stupid people around because as I've seen plenty of industry been affected by new people moving into an area, and I don't know how many people during COVID buying houses sight unseen and moving from the big island, coming over to here, and then they realise they're about 300 metres away from a light industrial area.
Yeah, they should have done their research.
Oh, what are we going to say?
Buyer beware.
Yeah. And then guess what? They start objecting to the council. And there's been plenty of businesses around Tassie that have been shut down because of stuff like that. You got retired people that come in and they're just got nothing better to do than bitch and moan because they've made a dumbass decision.
Yeah.
And you know that. And you should know half this stuff before you buy a property. Carrick, just outside Launceston, it's got a speedway.
Yes.
Been there for yonks.
It has, yeah.
And it's near, it's
a
not
new
that far from
development.
residential. Yeah. But everyone knows about it. But it's on, look, at the end of the day, it'll be on a timeline. It can't be there forever.
No.
And Saturday nights are awfully noisy at the Speedway.
Oh, they are, yes.
And that's why these types of facilities are well away. It's when people do further development of residential, and it's usually residential that causes the problem. Wakefield Park in New South Wales outside Goulburn, they've been through hell.
Really?
Same problem, because the council allows further development, gets closer and closer, and then you get this whole problem of people complaining. And that's just poor planning decisions.
Yes, okay. It's a fine line, isn't it? We obviously need more houses.
Oh, true, but then they shouldn't allow developments close to these things. It's no different, like Taswater has sewage treatment plants, settling ponds all around the place, and now they protect them like you wouldn't believe. It's called attenuation zones. And then you've got to get, call it smell reports done to see if you can build close to it.
Or you just wear pegs on your nose. That's the other alternative.
Well, just don't allow it. It's pretty simple. Don't have the land there, but it's old land and they change the rules and the overlay over time. Mm-hmm. It was like when they introduced the smell one for the Launceston crematorium.
Yeah, okay.
And I've never heard anyone complain about the crematorium.
No.
Outside in Launceston. But this is no different. You go down to Hobart, you've got the zinc works, you've got Incat, you've got these big industries, and you cannot let residential get too close to it. It's got to be protected. Otherwise, it's a bung fight. Council's always got someone ringing, complaining about it. Old parts of the city, there are houses that are close to light industrial and industrial areas. And I remember dealing with one years ago, and these people were complaining about it. Again, they didn't realise. They didn't research. They didn't drive around and have a look. There was a steel fabrication factory, and they did nothing wrong, yet they kept complaining. So that drives out the businesses. And it can send some businesses broke.
Yeah, I imagine. And it pushes industry out further, doesn't it?
Even mechanical workshops.
Really?
I've seen that, pushed out because they're just doing their work, but then there's the smell and other things. But most workshops are actually dry sites too. So they're very conscious of how they deal with the cars and all the waste and whatnot, but it's a risk. But people will complain if they feel like they've been put out.
I think it's important, even just look around. I know one of the houses that my husband and I looked at when we were looking to purchase, and we found a house, we loved it. On the corner of the block just across the other side of the road, there was a brick factory, and then we went outside and we thought, oh, how noisy is that going to be? And it wasn't too bad. There was like a low hum. At that time. But then we also noticed just down the road there was the tip. There was a tip station. I was like, I don't know if I really want to be that close to the tip either. But it's just a matter of we drove around and actually got a feel for the area, and I think that's really important too when you're looking to build or buy.
But what blows my mind, people buy houses sight unseen, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing.
Yes.
But I don't think people have seen Google Maps or Google Earth or any of those things. Like, seriously, why wouldn't you go online and have a good sticky beak around online?
Exactly.
Okay, it's not 100% up to date and accurate sometimes. It's pretty good. Better than what, I know real estate agents are trying to sell it and all that, but that's where I believe open disclosure of everything around you. Mm-hmm. But there's no reason why you can't look online or get someone to do an inspection for you.
Yeah.
We had Wayne Gorman in here a while ago. We've got to get him back in for some more of those crazy stories from
He had some good ones, didn't he?
Yeah, it was great.
A coffin in the roof or something.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff. It's amazing what you find. Well, as long as it didn't have a body in it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. That's grandma. No.
Oh.
But having someone do that, hey, can you have a look around? Do you recommend the noise? But it's only at that point in time when someone's there.
Yes.
You don't know when you get delivery trucks coming at 6 a.m. or whatever, like the Garmo trucks in the middle of the city.
True.
Have you ever had that? You stayed in the city and you got Garmo trucks coming through at 4 and 6 in the morning, and then you're staying in the hotel and you hear them banging and crashing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think we've all experienced that. So, yeah, it's being aware, do your research, and there's plenty of stuff online. Street View, what a great one.
Yeah, Street View is fantastic.
But you can't control who your neighbours are.
No, you definitely can't.
So, yeah, good luck. Everyone's got the same problem everywhere. But there's a lot of nice people around. Just hope you don't hit one that aren't very nice.
True.
But that's got nothing to do with planning or anything
no,
like that. That's just researching before you buy, and make sure you don't get caught out. Reduce your risk of having an unhappy time in your house.
Exactly. So I guess they're the take-homes.
Yeah, well, from buying a house, yeah. But from planning, it's just, like we were talking before, it's just let your professional handle it and they will advise you. Some of you may not be happy with some of the answers and suggestions, but they know what they're doing. We know what we're doing. And we do a lot of our own planning applications and whatnot. If at any point that we find, this is getting pretty tricky, we engage a professional.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, get the professionals in. Yep. Professional planners talking to council planners, it's like a match made in heaven. They all talk the same language.
Yes.
Planning speak.
That's exactly right. All right, we might wrap it up there, folks. Thanks for listening to the Building Design Primetime Podcast.
Catch us later.
You're listening to the Building Design Primetime Podcast.